Countdown clock.
All right, we're back.
Yes, we are.
Yeah, we are back. Feels good to be doing these on a regular basis.
I know, man. It took way too long,
I know.
which is funny.
Well, it is. It's ironic that,
Yeah.
after, 15 years, we finally decided to cross paths once again and, start doing this for ourselves, which makes the most sense in the world.
Well, why weren't you? Why weren't you making your own videos, making content, telling people how to do things different? Give them the cheat code, Sean. Give them the cheat codes.
Yeah,
How come
why wasn't I more visible online? That is a good question.
Yeah.
I think the easiest way to simplify it is that it wasn't necessarily, companies that I work for didn't necessarily advocate for e-commerce directors to be at the forefront.
Sure.
To be, advocating for their own brand, advocating for their own strategies. They really wanted a lot of that to take place behind the curtain, behind closed doors.
Yeah.
I think the reason is kind of, it's multifold. Why? Most significantly, they wanted to keep a lot of those strategies in-house. They're paying you a lot of money. They really don't want you divulging that to people that they don't want that information disseminated to. Now, as we'll get into it a little bit, or we'll touch on it a lot actually as we move forward, a lot of the strategies and styles that we implemented ended up being disseminated to a wide group of audiences and franchises and businesses, large manufacturers, large e-commerce companies.
We've made
some we knew of, some we didn't. A lot of that takes place behind the scenes, but I think that was primarily my hesitation, is that it wasn't all that promoted. It wasn't all that accepted for the companies that I work for, and I don't know if it was similar in your, for the companies that you aligned yourself with, that they really wanted you to be putting your ideas into the universe and sharing a lot of that, what they would call, secret sauce or, protected information, They wanted that in-house, and they wanted to use it for their own advantage, not necessarily. And plus, you have to learn over time that the companies that you work for, their primary goal is not to serve your interests; it's to serve their own. So they don't want other companies to know exactly who is coming up with certain ideas. And that's how they protect themselves from, you becoming a more and more valuable asset, whether they have to pay you more or, whether you become more of a target for other companies.
Yeah.
So, they want you to be behind the curtain. They want to shield your strengths and your skill set.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate. Yeah. It took, probably 8 to 10 years for me to learn that. And it's disappointing that, the companies that I thought I trusted, that I thought would, want me to grow in my personal career really don't care about, my own individual goals.
Yeah.
Their main priority is making sure that they get the most out of me for the least. And that's just the way that corporate America works. So that's primarily the reason why I haven't been more vocal or visible online.
Yeah, I think one of the things that's really interesting that you touch on, I think we'll probably talk about it several more times over the course of all these videos, is just the number of large conglomerates and large enterprises. And I'm speaking specific of automotive conglomerates, automotive giants, we can even say, the top dealer groups in the country, the big brands, the big top brands, the big top manufacturing brands, the top retailers, the top marketplaces, Cars.com, AutoTrader, etc. It only took, 6, 7 years of us doing what we did before we were in front of NDAs for one, sign this, never talk about it ever again, come to this CRM company and spend however many days and weeks and months at their facility over a course of a year and give them all the blueprints and tell them all the email cadences and all of the personalization tactics that we were using. And, now here we are in the the early 2020s that, there's physically, algorithms and machine learning, I'm sorry. There's automation that is, that's doing the things that we had to spend hours and hours laboring over. And I would say it was you and I and maybe as many as another 100 people total in the United States and Europe and some of the really aggressive South American countries that, that had the same sort of economic landscape that we did. I mean, I think that's one of the biggest things, right? I felt, and I don't mean to get all real super philosophical and woke or anything, but, it's similar to just things that we don't talk about as far as being in toxic relationships, right? Or other interpersonal things. You kind of get conditioned not to feel comfortable being able to get on in front and talk about it. You look at the other personalities that we maybe have followed, that we watched over that time period, they maybe have worked at a particular store for a year or 2 years or 3 years. They never really, a lot of the guys and girls that are influencers and personalities out there, anyone that's in automotive that's watching any of these videos will be like, oh yeah, so-and-so at NADA, so-and-so at Digital Dealer Convention. You've seen them for 5-6 years. If you really go back and look at their history, they didn't spend deep time working with Toyota. They didn't spend deep time working with, one of the major CRM or one of the third-party marketing affiliates that are approved by General Motors, for instance, right? They didn't participate in making Shop Click Drive a thing. And we kind of, for a long period of time, looked at them and went like, but I'm not that person, right? They're using information and selling it as a commodity because that's their business. That's their business is that they're a brand. They're an influencer. I know that for me, a big part of, on top of legally having NDAs that I was terrified of for a long period of time, really big companies, I just sort of looked at myself and looked at those people and went, I'm not that. I'm not saying that any of them are frauds. I'm not saying that none of them are frauds. But I'm not saying that these are fraudulent characters, but they're characters. And I never looked at you, and I never looked at myself, and several of the other people that we really are close to that have the same experiences that we do. I never looked at us and went, oh, we're characters. I've done public speaking. I've done the circuits. I've absolutely have spoken at conventions and been a thought leader, but I never looked at that as like, well, let me depart from this exceptional career that I'm building and go off by myself and be a brand and go influence, right? So I think for me, it was those two factors. It was the fear factor leveraged by actual NDAs that were in place. And then it was, who am I? Who wants to look at me? Who wants to,
See, maybe me and you were a little bit different in that sense.
We're a little different.
See, I knew immediately that I was one of those guys, and that may sound arrogant.
No.
At this point in my career, I've gotten to the point where it doesn't bother me at all. I'm willing to accept credit where it's due, give That's credit right. where it's due.
Yep.
And know my value.
Yep.
And know what I'm capable of when it comes to developing new strategies, individual strategies, re-identifying the entire market landscape of a certain product. I have no doubts about how I'm capable of reshaping a whole market. I mean,
that's actually
the northeastern market for
you did it.
Automotive was,
as
we spoke of before, extremely competitive, and I dictated that market. Mm-hmm. And that's I accept it. It's not something that I am proud of it. It took a lot of things. One thing that you didn't mention is time. We didn't have the time to be branching out and doing our own thing. That's
absolutely true. Not until now.
No, not until now, because things start to slow down after you become an expert at something.
Yeah.
They do start to slow down. Because you've already tried that method, you've already tried this strategy, you've already tried so many different ways of doing something that you've perfected it in a lot of cases. So things start, it's kind of, I use the analogy of sports.
Sure.
When my dad was a semi-pro hockey player, and Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Hockey Player of the Year. And he put it perfectly. He said, as you move up, the game just gets faster. When you go from high school, when you go from college, when you go to semi-pro, when you go, the game just speeds up. And it's those who are able to be comfortable at even the highest speed, that go pro. You know, the puck it moves faster, but you find different ways
doing the
to
same
get in front of it.
Right? It's still doing the same thing.
And approaches. So I like that analogy of sports, that the speed.
It's a great analogy.
Up, but, you know, for someone who's a professional, the game actually slows down a little bit. So, you know, I'm involved in real estate. We're doing our second team consulting. I coach youth basketball. You know, I work out 4 or 5 times a week. I spend time with my family. I have a good budding relationship with, you know, a new girl that I met. You know, I'm able to balance all of those things. And early in my career, that wasn't as easy. That was more difficult because you had a process of elimination, of trying a lot of new things, trying to figure out which worked and which didn't.
And you're grinding out the hustle. You're just wanting to prove yourself. You want to prove yourself. You want to make sure that you fit. You want to make sure that, you know, you want the validation. You're not self-validating. Now we're at that point where it's like, I don't need anybody else. Comment away, right? Tell me I'm an idiot. That's totally fine.
Feel free. Who are you?
I have 6 kids. I hear I'm an idiot all the time, so I don't.
Well, that's another reason why you may not have had a whole lot of time.
I was making my family.
Out. Yeah, you were.
That's right. That's true.
You were setting up.
I think that's a fascinating observation that I wouldn't have even really stopped and thought about. And I mean, why are we talking about this, right? Because we're asking our client base that's watching this, we're asking them to sort of think about the same challenges that they're going through. And it may not be that they're trying to branch out and be an influencer or be a personality or a character, but they are taking their business from where it is that's worked naturally, from their hustle and their grind, right? They've moved into that next elevated place, and now they're starting to face like that next level of professional challenge, which obviously is where we come along to help. We don't do everything. We can't help them with, you know, HR, right? We can't help them with accounting. That's not our area of expertise. But I think you're absolutely right. It's time is one of those things you just stop and you don't think about. I'm not even going to get into all the paradoxes and parallels there, but I think that it makes a ton of sense. Like, you know, a year from now, 2 years from now, there's so much content from us that no one's going to stop and go, well, why didn't they do it before, right? It's just going to be in the movement. And I think that our clients will see that too, right? 2 to 3 years from where you're at today, when you go and get help, when you go and get that assistance, when you accept that you don't need to be the expert in digital marketing, you don't need to be the expert in analytics and data science, you don't need to be the expert in extracting, you know, customer traffic and conversion. You don't need to understand funnels at a professional level. I love that comparison and that sort of nod to it, Sean, because it really is like time is what made it slow down. Experience is what made it slow down. We're able to see what we see in a way that is very crystallized. It's almost like what we do on a day-to-day basis is the easiest thing that we do every day. Everything else is the challenge.
It's an example of what we do for other companies that we're doing for ourselves right now. All right. So what is one of the main objections that we would need to overcome? And this, you know, for any product, for any business, you have to look at what your client's objections are likely to be, what they're going to be. And ours are going, it isn't the resume.
No, it's not the resume.
It's going to be, why haven't you done what you're asking us to do?
Well,
so we're already forward thinking.
That's actually funny. No,
we're already
funny.
identifying what the main objection would be for a client, and we're eliminating it from the very beginning. And that's sort of what we do for a lot of the clients that we're going to work with. It's the same.
That's what we're doing for our clients right now.
It's the same strategy.
It's the same strategy. And I think that's really easy. You know, I think you actually made me write this in my bio, right? Like, if you've touched e-commerce in the last 15 years, if you've experienced an online transaction, you've literally you've experienced my DNA, right? I mean, I've been putting on the evolution, right? I've been part of only a
Let's dive into it.
Yeah.
For a second, let's dive into it. Okay.
Sure.
So why is that the case? Why would we know that, or why would we be comfortable saying that e-commerce, as it stands in 2023, was a byproduct of the work that we did in our space for the last 10 years?
Sure. I mean,
and another analogy that I like to use is when an art appraiser or when an art connoisseur wants to, or let's say they're a fan of Monet.
No, it's the appraiser. You're right.
They're a fan
the appraiser
of Picasso, right? They know their work. Right, right from looking at
they know it's
from their painting, they know who the artist was.
Yeah. You know, it's
extremely similar in e-commerce. When I see the way that Facebook's developed, when I see the way that Instagram is developed, when I see the way that Google has developed, the tools that they use, it's the same blueprint that we implemented 10 years ago when a lot of those techniques weren't being used to drive traffic and attention. It's tone. It's not. It's tone,
timing and personalization.
Timing, frequency, the way that words are put together, and you see that in the way that Facebook, for example, how they have. This is going into a whole nother rabbit hole that I don't want to discuss right now. But the way that Facebook is able, and social media in general, draws in your attention is the interface that they use, and the different posts that are in
front of you on purpose.
When they're shown, what post is shown first, second, third, fourth. It's all for a purpose. Everything that is shown to you, there's nothing by accident.
No, not at all.
So, what's in boldface, what notifications you get while you're searching up something on. It's all ClickFunnels. It's all targeted marketing, and it's the same kind of style. I don't know a better word to say it, but that is why we were able to immediately recognize that it was being used across multiple different arenas.
Yeah, I think the other part of that too is you just look at our timeline. You look at where were we at the certain period of time of this next evolution of commerce, the next evolution of social media, the next evolution of shopping carts, the next evolution of, headless platform technology. And you look at where I was, you look at where you were, you look at where Hope was, you look at where Galena was, right? I mean, there's a very systematic approach to the design, the physical design, and then the thought process design of any of the commerce roadmaps that we build, right? And it's a combination of the four of us, five of us. There's sometimes there's other people involved as well on the team in just building the roadmap of like getting the customer from this entry point in the journey to this conversion, this particular call to action that we're looking for them to convert on. It's all very thought through. For us, it's very simple and organic. There's plenty of other teams where it's also very simple and organic because they've done it for so long at Etsy, they've done it at Walmart, they've done it at Amazon, they've done it at, Walmart, wherever. And those are the reason we go for this. Those are the best experiences out there. There are plenty of other like smaller, lesser knowns that are just like really slick, beautiful, awesome experiences. I love to talk about Dollar Shave Club all the time. One day we'll do a video. I'll spend 3 minutes, 5 minutes talking about why I think that they're the genius of bringing personalization, thought mapping of the marketing experience, the user persona, and actual analytic conversion, putting all of that together as a cohesive strategy. There's the epilogue, the story of what their average customer value is in contrast to what you expect your value to be when you sign up to be with them, right? I mean, you sign up expecting to pay $8, $15, maybe $20 a month. At the peak of my usage of Dollar Shave Club, Sean, I was at like $57 a month. Instead of shipments every 6 weeks, I was down to like shipments every 3 weeks.
Well, look at that beard.
It's
brilliant. Obviously you need it.
You got to use a lot of. Right. It's not looking so great today, but it takes a lot of product to keep this. This
isn't by accident.
This isn't an accident, right? No, I mean that is social engineering, commerce engineering. It's sales engineering, right? And I think that that's a lot of stuff that when people really dissect us, right, what's going to happen? One of the biggest things that's going to happen is people are going to go, well, there's tons of other agencies out there. Yes, there are. There are tons of other agencies out there. There are tons of freelancers out there. Go to it. I think we just did a video a week ago where we talked about, we're about to launch like 5 different campaigns of posts talking about why you don't want to hire this giant group of high level talent that are being let go from Meta and from Amazon and from all the big players, right? All the big tech giants. Everybody's making cuts. You can get people from everywhere, and we've got these whole campaigns about why not to go get them, right? So you're going to end up arriving at, well, you're an agency. You're trying to plug us to get your agency. Why don't we just go shop other agencies? And I mean, that's the easy part. You go shop us against other agencies. It's like, yeah, you guys are significantly more affordable, especially for businesses generating less than $10, $12 million a year. I mean, that's our target, right? Those agencies aren't targeting that. So if you go with pretty much any North American, any major European agency, even Central South American agencies, you're going to be paying, if you're less than $12 million a year, Sean, you're going to be paying 35, 40, 50% of your total revenue on a digital strategy budget. And we keep it simple. We keep that within no more than 10%. We really try to target 2 to 3, 4% of your total revenue as your initial iterative growth budget, right? There's a huge difference. You look at their senior level talent, our senior level talent, their cost, our cost, it becomes a no-brainer. But that's really not the point. The point is still going to be, why you guys, right? And this is all what we're talking about today. Where have you guys been? What have you done? Well, I think it's easy for you. It's easy for me. I can say, look at Toyota, evolution of Toyota over the last 10 years in e-commerce. Look at every major Toyota store sales process over the last 12 years. That's you. Look at any major automotive company, any major automotive market platform, and the evolution of those experiences over the last 12 years. That's me, right? Go look at on-demand services platforms, right? That evolution of that marketing is Hope over the last 6-7 years, right? That's her experience at Mathnasium and the other on-demand platforms that she's been at. Look at the evolution of email and SMS targeted marketing. That's Samantha Samuels. That's Hope. That's even in a lot of ways regards. It's our team under Anusha and a lot of influence with Galena. That's their influence, right? If you honestly, like if you look at,
it's not a huge playing field, and why would a company, regardless of the product, there is some variation.
Yeah, sure.
And there's going to be, every company is going to be a little bit different.
Yeah.
Certainly.
Yeah.
From a $3 product to a $30,000 product, there is going to be some variation. But the reason why you see so much repetitiveness, or you see that it's almost like follow the leader. Mm-hmm. Why would you want to implement, if there's one strategy that works better than others?
Yep.
Why wouldn't there be a stampede of companies who would try to utilize what that team is doing well to their own business strategy, right, their own model? It's a small world. It really is. It's you say 100, I say probably more like a dozen.
Maybe.
People that pay close attention to shifts in
at the real
new strategy
at the highest level. Yes, at the highest level.
New strategy. How well is it working? And they all share data between each other. So, I mean, it's a conference room of people that keep a very close eye on what's happening. And if there's something that works particularly well, they're going to implement that strategy across every industry.
And then, so why do you see, someone is a thought leader on it, and it gives them a huge gain for, maybe 2 fiscal quarters or whatever, right? And then you sort of see it rolls out everywhere else, right? Why is that, Sean? It's exactly what you just said. It's a small circle of people. It's a small group of influencers. Those of us at the very top of that echelon, we keep little things secret for a short period of time, and then it rolls its way out. And as it gets down to more, as access to that information, that strategy becomes available for more and more people, to the masses, by the time it's out to the freelancer market, where a freelancer is going to bring you strategies that Target is using in their in-store app, sort of synergy, right? When that's already available at the freelancer level, we're already on to and I don't want to get cheesy about talking about, then we're on to things like augmented reality, e-commerce experiences, and metaverse experiences. But the reality is this: we are, and we have been thought leaders in that space, and will remain thought leaders in that space. But that's not a practical application for our client base today, right? So,
well, here's a good example. It's crazy to talk about this kind of stuff, but it is the reality. And the longer that I do this, the more that I see the trends. Okay. Mm-hmm. So Metaverse, they have actually a very nice headset. They got a nice experience. Okay, but why haven't they been able to penetrate the market? Well, for one, I don't think that they've been able. Why haven't they really gotten a whole lot?
Sure.
Why hasn't it hit like Facebook?
Okay.
Why hasn't the Metaverse been able to hit like Facebook, which I'm sure Zuckerberg anticipated? But this is why. Because they haven't found practical applications for the use of the Metaverse. So
at scale.
I put up a post.
At scale.
At scale. So I put up a post because, honestly, I don't want to become enemies with people that I should be allies with. I don't want to battle the team at Facebook anymore. At first I got a thrill kind of coming up with new ways to get people's attention. And then eventually they just shadow ban you.
Yeah, that's right.
So, you lose your sort of ambivalent and you grow up a little bit. So over time I've grown up a little bit. So the one thing that I found was interesting was when I saw an ad that Facebook had that was for kids trying to do batting practice.
Yeah.
With their headset on.
Right.
To me, that seemed like a brilliant idea.
It's actually a great application, too.
It is a great application. Software. It's a good way to kind of numb parents to the idea of putting their kids in a video headset.
Yeah. And
it has a great benefit of a practical use, right? A practical use. Right. It's not trying to get everybody in the world out of their office and bringing them in. That's a while away. But how do you get those headsets into kids and into parents' homes? Well, you give them practical uses for it. So I shared that baseball post, and now I don't see anything but baseball posts for the Metaverse. I haven't seen anything but that. Driving ranges, same thing, using the Metaverse for the driving range. How do you get it into people's homes? So after I posted that one is the algorithm. The algorithm's going to show me that more frequently, right? Mm-hmm. Because that's the system that it uses.
Anytime you show any engagement and interactivity with it, sure.
And somebody on Facebook probably is going to look at me or yours pages and see what we share and say, all right, they've been right 100 out of 100 times on the way that we should probably implement a strategy. Let's go ahead and try it this way. Let's go ahead and follow their lead because we are, like you said, the thought leaders.
Yeah.
So I constantly see repetitiveness in things that I share, the things that I've always tried to push for in either business or personally. And eventually you just realize that, there are people that love to see what it is you think is the next best way the best way to advertise a product. And we're going to try it your way first, at least.
Yeah.
Because we're right way more often than we're wrong.
Yeah, what's really fascinating about what you just said is if you think about it, and you just think about it in like the evolution and generations of product. I just thought about this because I saw in the screen that Samsung was doing a commercial behind me, or maybe it was Pixel, I don't remember. It doesn't matter. But it's the same philosophy, and I just want our clients out there to think about this, right? And I love how you set this up. So if one of the things that works so well, right, is that this particular strategy, and let's just say that it's, look, I'm not trying to get creepy and insinuate that, Facebook is listening to you, but let's just say you have that weird thing happen where you and I were just talking about barbecue, and then all of a sudden, in the next day, I'm getting barbecue ads, whether it's barbecue sauce, YouTube TV is showing me some barbecue chicken commercial, or I get, an ad for Stanley's barbecue, which I'm always going to go to Stanley's. And that's an easy one because, the algorithm already knows I'm always going to go to Stanley's. All they got to do is check my reviews. I'm telling you, Google thinks that I'm like a part-time barbecue critic. It's hilarious to me. But what happens is there's a devaluation. There is an amortization, and there is a plateau at which that idea has real significant value. And I really want our clients to think about this, because when you go to an agency that wants to charge you $200 an hour for a strategy that has been used successfully now for 5-6 years as the standard, I want you to question and push back and say, you know what, I've seen that strategy. I've maybe even dabbled with that strategy before. Maybe that you're fine-tuning the audience a little bit better, or you're segmenting my spend so it's going a little further in the reach. But that's not $200 an hour worth of strategy. That is like a $45, $30 an hour strategy. I mean, I could kind of do this on my own. I'm just asking you to execute. I really think it's incredible that you kind of shared that, Sean, because it's the same thing as, why is the iPhone this year $2,000, and then next year the same iPhone is $600 or free, because the next year's iPhone is $2,000, right? We need to think about it the same way. Like, they're not doing much different from iPhone to iPhone. So really the cost of production, right? The cost of production on that next generation of iPhone is really not that significant, right? So if it cost them $800 8 years ago in technology, and they sold it for $1,500, then they got a nice juicy little profit margin times the number of people that buy it. As that technology doesn't evolve much, little tiny improvements that are costing a few $100s per phone on the retail end, now you're jacking the price up to $2,000, but you've only really invested $200 more per phone in the technology, right? You're passing that cost and you're passing that inflation on to it's recycled, and it gives the company the ability to charge more and charge more and charge more, and we all just accept it. We're fine with it. We're like, there's some of us that are like, I'm going to wait 8 months and then I'm going to get the newest iPhone 8 months after it's brand new. And then there's those of us that are like, I will stand in line for 28 hours waiting to get it the second that it's available. The same concepts apply to the value of the strategies that marketing firms and digital strategy agencies and platform agencies want you to pay, right? If we're going to put you on a Shopify Plus, head of the absolute bleeding edge of the technology of what Shopify is capable of doing, then we're going to charge at the higher end of that. If we're going to do custom code on top of, some other platform, custom, somewhat headless, semi-headless on top of a BigCommerce or a WooCommerce, base e-commerce platform, then it's going to be a little bit higher, right? Because we're allowing ourselves to flex that creativity muscle. We're allowing ourselves to flex that technology strategy muscle. If we're doing a WordPress site on top of WordPress Commerce, or barely a freemium Shopify account, you better be challenging that agency. Why are they charging you what they're charging you? And that, I mean, that's why, like, we have a very specific target audience, because these clients, the clients that we serve, Sean, we know this, but our audiences don't know this. They get bullied, they get beat up, and they get manipulated, right? They don't need the brand new latest iPhone. They need a smartphone that's going to get them through this next chapter of their business growth, and they need to pay a reasonable price for it. I just love how you set all that up, because it's just such a great analogy. I feel like if we watch this over again, I could summarize that a lot better and be able to get it out to the audience clearer. But I think for those who get it, it's like, okay, that makes a lot of sense. Like, people are selling old strategy at premium dollar, and that makes no sense. And it works, obviously. It's why they do it, is because you just said the at scale and over time, more people will follow these strong strategies than isolated, small, segmented targets, right? Segmented audiences. You got to get hyper niche when you got a tough client. You got a tough audience that really needs a specific message and really needs a unique offering in order to convert. When it's the masses, when it's iPhone, it's an easy message, and that strategy is just rinse and repeat. I'm telling you, there's a really great clip. We got to find it. We got to insert it here somehow. There's a really great clip of literally like the evolution, not only the evolution technologically of the iPhone since like the iPhone 6, 5 or 6. But then on top of that, it's also the regurgitation of the same ads. All they did was hire a different cast of people and change the colors a little and do a little bit more 3D animation and CG, but it's the same ad basically since iPhone 5 or 6, all the way up until this last iteration of the iPhone. And they started to actually kind of come out with some more creative.
Well, I mean, their product is sexier,
sexy, it works, everybody loves it.
Incredible. Yeah. You know, everybody loves their iPhone.
Yeah.
And it seems like they've been able to adapt. They've been able to be at the cutting, the forefront
of the technology.
So
it's the absolute sheeple masses, and so that strategy works as a blanket, and it just works. And then what you just touched on is you end up finding that there are other agencies out there, and there are other people out there that are just like, we'll just copy this formula. Well, yeah, if you're Apple, copy that formula, obviously. If you're not Apple,
Apple's gonna have a much different formula because they're Rome.
They're Rome.
I mean, they are the pinnacle of civilization.
We're gonna take a real quick break, and then when we come back we'll dive in again to like why didn't Meta take off, right? Why hasn't Meta taken off? And I love that because it's going to be a really interesting conversation about like timing. And you know, just sometimes a great idea.
I don't want to get off track. I don't want to get too far off.
Okay, well, we still got to take.
We're not really selling Meta.